Hey, AppSmart family, it's Chris Schubert back with another in our Solution Sales video series. I am joined here by two very interesting folks, a name that you know a lot about and a name that might be brand new to you. So we kind of get a nice little mix and match today with Ray Hicken from the world famous Nice CX1, one of our key players in the contact center space, and Eric Herring of Coretelligent, who's really helping us out a bunch on the IT management side of things. So gentlemen, welcome to the Solution Sales video series. Eric, I'm going to start with you as kind of the new name for some of our partners here. Tell us a little bit about Coretelligent and really the primary solution that advisors should think of you for.
Yeah, great question, Chris, and it's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us. Coretelligent, we're a MSP, managed services provider. We're a managed security services provider in the outsourced IT world, right? So everything from white glove help desk to on-site engineering, infrastructure, maintenance, monitoring, support, cloud, backup, cybersecurity, all of these things. So we have a lot of capabilities as MSPs, and to really kind of focus it on one thing for the advisors today, I think I'd like to, just as a takeaway, one of the trends that we're finding, and we're getting a lot of traction, is this thing that we're seeing out in the marketplace where buyers of cybersecurity services today are finding that many of the pure play MSPs that are out there are actually creating more work for clients sometimes. And that's because they end up throwing a lot of those incidents over the fence. Their model is more to detect and contain, but they don't always have the services that are behind that where they can fix the security issues that are coming up. So it creates a lot of pain for clients. And on the other hand, we have that sort of heritage as an MSP. And it's a problem that we can solve. I mean, we're equipped to not just do the detection, the response, the containment, but we can also remediate things like patching, things like working with end users. That's not traditionally something that a lot of times people think about in the pure play cybersecurity MSSP world. So, that's music to prospects' ears when they know that you can do all of those things, and they're being asked to do more with less. So we're getting a lot of traction there.
Awesome. And bringing Coretelligent to our advisor community, we have a lot of advisors that some are MSPs, those smaller MSPs. We have a lot of just traditional consultants and services that are very often looking for those professional services. That's one key arm of what AppSmart can provide to our advisors, obviously through Coretelligent. And what we find with some of those partners that really focus so much on MSP style services, security services, managed IT, sometimes they're not necessarily the ones that think about the more traditional voice and data services and contact center, and sometimes vice versa. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. But speaking of contact center and just overall being a trendsetter in the industry, Ray, tell us a little bit about Nice CX1 and the primary solution that you guys are thought of for.
Thanks, Chris. It's great to be with you today. As always, we love our partnership with you guys. I think what I like to say to people now, people know us as a contact center platform, but what we've been saying lately is we are a customer experience platform. As you think about where this industry is going, it's more than just the ACD, which is the automatic call distribution. It's more about what the customer self-service experience and the analytics involved in that. So it's really a customer experience, which involves just the ACD, the WEM, which is the workforce management, and the digital products that we're selling now. And I think we're excited about the future because we know that contact center of today will not be the same in 5 years from now. And we're getting prepared to deal with that as a company. We're excited about that.
Well, obviously, Ray, you've been dealing with our partners for a long time, and you've seen a lot of great success with ICX1. But obviously, that leads you to see, the best of the best and the worst of the worst along the way. Yeah. What are some sales best practices that you've seen your number one advisors do that you wish all would emulate?
Well, that's a great question because I think what we're trying to do is elevate all of our partners to a level where they can go sell this product. It is a more complex sell. But I think some of the better ones do, who are not really transformation consulting partners, but are just have a great business practice and have opportunities to bring new customers to us. They're really focused on helping customers recognize the different stakeholders that they're working with in the contact center space. So when you're making a decision about a contact center, there are a lot of people who touch the outcome of that achievement of that success. For example, the ones that are really good about this will focus in on business outcomes like the key people that play there. There's a vice president of customer experience or CX, and they're really focused on improving the customer experience or increasing revenue. But you have an IT executive, and their main focus is really maintaining the security and reliability and to decrease the costs. And then maybe you've got a director of the contact center operations, and they're all about improving the customer experience or also working on decreasing the cost, which is the CSAT scores, the NPS scores. They're looking for things that help them be a better customer experience when they connect with a customer. So our partners that really embrace knowing the different players and what really drives their decision making helps them to accelerate the opportunity for us and for them in the particular things that they bring to us to work with.
I love that, because that's not so much of like know my what my widget does and what it does better than anybody else, but it's understanding the pure nature of business sales today, and the fact that there are so many decision makers involved on a technology sale. Back when I started back in the day, if you convince the office manager that you're going to save 20%, you were done. Now it's way more complex. Eric, from the Coretelligent perspective, you obviously different style sell, but some of those principles probably mesh your world as well. What kind of success strategies have you seen that you wish all partners would do?
Yeah, it's a great question, Chris. I tend to agree with Ray on a lot of those points. One of the things that has been really successful for the advisors that we work with is when we're really in sync in the whole process on all those sales motions, huddling, strategizing, having that very open and trusting relationship with the advisors and the suppliers. That really helps, because when the vendors present well, that's going to reflect well on everybody. It's going to reflect well on the advisor. So it's a no-brainer to invest that time at every point along that sales motion. So, those advisors that I work with that are really, really good, that seem to sort of set themselves apart, they have their ducks in a row for every meeting, right? I mean, they want to deliver value in every interaction. They're not just calling to check in and see where something's at. When they get a meeting, they're making the best use of the time that the prospect gave them. So, I'll give you one example of like a big no-no for me, where I've been really coached by advisors, is they say, hey, there's nothing more frustrating for the buyer than wasting their time. So don't cover old ground in a technical discovery call, right? If we've already talked about this, make sure you never bring, it's little things like that, so making sure that you're not reflecting poorly in that way. It kind of reminds me of that quote that like football is a game of inches. I think sales is a game of inches. It's doing all those little things right, all the fundamentals, and really being together and on the same page, and treating it as a strategy, even if you're bringing multiple suppliers in. Developing those trusting relationships and being in sync is going to make everybody reflect better, and it's also going to help people sort of move beyond that inertia, move those clients beyond the inertia, to really find the best value and the best solution.
I love what you said about, not wasting time. And a lot of that comes to the type of questions that you're asking. Are you saying no brainers that, do you want to save money? Yes, I want to save money. Is there a discovery question that you've utilized at Coretelligent that's helped to really open up an opportunity that you'd want to share with their advisor team?
I'll tell you one that I think is absolutely rock solid, and it works almost every time, and it's really simple. It is, what is and isn't going well with X, whatever X is. Just ask that open-ended conversation, because it gets the client talking. They love to talk about their business. They love to talk about what's going well. They love to also talk about what's not going well. And I think with what we've seen over the past couple of years, there have been so many changes in the way that our prospects and clients are working today, how they're accessing IT systems, how they're being supported. There's challenges in the labor market. There's all of these factors, and they really just need some guidance from somebody who can kind of be like a Sherpa, right, as the advisors are, to kind of get them through that process. So I think it's a combination of thinking in terms of the business problems, but then also for advisors understanding where they have white space, right? So I'll give you one quick example. Oh, it looked like you want to say something, Chris.
Oh, well, yeah, I was just like, I've heard guru 1,000 times, but never really a Sherpa. And I also like the fact that with your question, it's not an overly negative style question. By that, I mean, a lot of times, get that generic, what keeps you up at night? I always hate those because it puts everything in a negative light. Rather, what's going well or maybe isn't going well with X. And I think it's a much better way to state that solution. But you had one other little thing you wanted to add before we go to Ray.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And knowing what's working well is also going to help you to find out what you're going to sort of stay away from, right? It's not a solution, not a problem that needs a solution. The example I was going to give was we were talking to an advisor, brought us in to talk about a cloud migration. So it's everything from the project to get somebody off of, from on-prem into public cloud. It was what are you going to do about it to support it, maintain it, and all that stuff afterward. Those are all things that were within our wheelhouse. But the advisor was smart enough to also think about all of those other white space services that they could offer. And they said, hey, now that you're moving from on-prem to a more elastic consumption model in the cloud, what are you doing about expense management? How are you going to control your costs? So it was just a really good opportunity to be able to think more from that perspective of the business outcomes of what's happening for those clients, but understanding where they had capabilities and where they had supplier relationships to bring in new conversations.
Awesome. Well, sticking with the theme, Ray, of the best discovery questions that you've heard out there, what's one that you have heard used to great success that has opened up the door to nice CX1?
Well, I think because of the environment we're in right now, I mean, it's pretty basic, but it is the starting point when we're talking about moving to the cloud from a prem world is simply what contact center system you're using today. That really tells you where they're at and where they need to go. And then you can get into other questions where you start talking about their business. Does your business experience spikes in volumes during peak seasons, or how are you handling anticipated increases in call volume, or how do you handle system outages, disaster situations, and disaster recovery? How you're handling the different contact center channels like email, chat, and text. And then, as I said, as we get in these more complex environments, how many digital platforms are you supporting today? Are they using WhatsApp? Are they using text, email, chat? Are they using Messenger? What percentage of your call resolutions are being done before it hits the agent? Those are kinds of questions you start to really get an understanding of where the company is and where they need to go and how you can help them. But the basic real question for me is, what system are you using today? And are you actually increasing or decreasing your customer experience and the revenue generation to your own company through that experience? And there's a lot of things you can go into after that as I kind of rattle off a few of those questions that you can start getting a real idea of where they need help, where their pain points are, where you're trying to help them to be more successful with their current customer base, because that's really what they care about. In the contact center world, they're just trying to connect that customer to come back again and again and not have a dissatisfactory experience with their own platform they're using and their people that are there to support them.
One other piece of advice with that style of question that I would add is you better have a good poker face, because you never know. They might say, what are you using? And they're telling you about a system that's 30 years old and is rife with viruses and problems. And you have to go, okay, that was a good decision. Speaking along those lines, Ray and Erica, one of my favorite questions I always ask is, what's the biggest sales mistake you see folks make out there? And how would you tell them to avoid it? Ray, we'll start with you.
Well, in this world, again, the cloud contact center, they just keep selling what they know. They don't advance their business model to the cloud. And I think it's really a miss on their part. And we try to provide our partners, our certification and our implementation program. It's really extensive, where they can go from point A to point Z, and they really get a really good understanding of what the contact center is without overwhelming them with a lot of technical information. I'll tell you a quick story why this is really important. I had a situation where a partner went in to the CIO of a company to talk to him about his business needs, and brought up what he knew and only stayed in his path that he did know. He walked out of there, felt like he got good business opportunity with them. Another partner walked in to the same CIO, and he had been trained by us, and he had been taught about some of the things, just a few questions you need to ask. And he ultimately ended up, through asking these few questions to open a door, he ultimately ended up closing $250K MRR contact center deal, which really was about $600,000 a year The other partner found out about it and he was livid because he didn't know to ask what he didn't know. And I think that's the biggest mistake they make. They sell what they know and they are not willing to either get uncomfortable or reach out to learn more so they can advance their business model as their company has to grow and change and advance in this world that we're working in. And I think that's the one biggest thing that they miss on.
I'll also go with that. You better get that deal reg in when you ask those right questions.
That's right.
Awesome stuff. Well, Eric, how about you, sir? With the MSP services that you're bringing to the channel for the advisor community, what's a mistake that you've seen out there that you wish that they would correct?
I think it applies even more broadly than just the MSP or MSSP world. I think it's human nature. I think it's being reluctant to ask questions where there's a chance you're not going to like the answer. In my experience, I think the most successful advisors are ones that set themselves apart by asking hard questions in that qualification process and then listening carefully to the answers that you get. So, a question like, how do you feel about the pricing you've seen? Right? Open-ended question. Going to get some good feedback. As you've evaluated some of the solutions that we've presented, are there other things that you were hoping to see and hear? That's a great one just to figure out, have we got even the right kind of solution in front of you? What are we missing? I had one the other day that I thought was really good where somebody was trying to probe for kind of like the right time to close. And they said, have you seen enough to make a decision? And if not, what's the rest of the process look like? So I think, having a direct approach, it can be powerful because while sometimes we're not going to hear the answers that we want to hear, that's really critical feedback and it helps to really push a deal forward. So it's making sure we're getting the right solution to the client, it's shortening the sales cycle, it's driving towards a decision and away from sort of the inertia of not doing anything. And I've found that to be really successful. Every time I see it, sometimes you kind of brace for the answer, but I feel like it always builds much more trust in the relationship and really helps those advisors become more successful.
Yeah, I love that because one of the things that I see within the advisor community and channel managers across the board is sometimes a reluctancy to actually sell. And I don't say that to be ultra negative, but they're not willing to ask that question because they're worried about being too pushy. They feel as though, they've given the coolness of the solution or the value and they've dropped the proposal and they put the little price down there and they feel like that should be enough, right? Sometimes you just got to go that extra mile and ask those questions to understand those business processes. Again, going back to what Ray said a little bit earlier, it's also about understanding how those decisions are made. Well, guys, this has been an absolute outstanding edition of the Solution Sales video series. But as always, kind of like to kind of clear the air and clear misconceptions off the deck as we finish here today. So, Eric, especially with Coretelligent being an MSP and an MSSP of a national nature, obviously a lot of advisors out there have local folks they work with. They might be worried about working with a large scale national MSSP. So, are there any misconceptions around working with a national MSP that you want to correct for our folks?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Chris. I think mostly the concept is sometimes you might not think that you're going to get the same sort of white glove service. And white glove is very, very easy to say, hard to prove, especially when you're talking about selling. It's much easier to develop from the advisor community once they've experienced it a few times and they've got a sense for how you present yourself, how we've organized our business to be able to deliver on that. But I think even more broadly, there's just confusion about MSPs. Like it's hard to rationalize the different solutions across the different suppliers. Like, is this MSP the same as this MSP? The apples to apples comparisons are really, really hard because we all tend to package our solutions differently. Sometimes we deliver them differently. It's hard to know what isn't included in pricing. So that's all a challenge. It's even more challenging, I think, when you combine MSSP capabilities. That even kind of muddies the water. And so I think some advisors may be reluctant to sell those services, even though they want the wallet share, they want stickier services. So, I think at Coretelligent, we do a nice job through our channel program to help advisors navigate that landscape and really help them become more comfortable and confident sort of adding these services to their repertoire and hopefully to their book of business.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the AppSmart community. And we look forward to seeing how we can grow with Coretelligent. And now, hand to Ray, as a long established member of not only AppSmart, but the channel community in general, your misconceptions are a little bit different, right? You've been around the game for a while. There's been changes, et cetera. Is there anything that you want to make sure that the channel community knows about NICE CX1 or any misconception that you would like to clear up?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And we love your advisors and we want them to know a couple things. So 3 things really quick. First of all, that we don't care about the SMB or mid-market. We only care about the enterprise space. Since NICE acquired us, we have gone upstream. We do a lot of big deals, but we really care about that space. And we don't want our partners to forget about us or think we need to send it somewhere else because we don't want it. 70% of our business closed deal count wise each quarter comes from the SMB space, and that's 25 to 250 seats. So we were the first to the cloud in 1997 as a contact center, and it was all SMB. Five9 followed in 2001, and RingCentral came into the business, who actually resells our platform. A majority of theirs is SMB as well. And so we care about that space, and we want our partners and your partners to care about that with us and bring us into those opportunities. The second one is we're too expensive. We've been said about that, but we are really comparable to our competitors in their websites. We've gone and checked and we've changed that. And however, another thing we might want to say here is we pay full commissions on more parts of the platform than some of our competitors do. We don't use third-party products for the AI or the WEM, workforce engagement management. It's native to our platform. Therefore, it's part of our full commission package. And that's a really powerful thing for some partners. Sometimes where they don't look at the whole package of what they're being commissioned on, but we are not more expensive. We're very competitive there. The last one is, and you've heard this, we're not partner friendly. We've been through some changes with NICE and it's just not true. We're fixing that really strongly. 68% of the business closed by our companies coming through partners and referral and reseller, and 40% of that is coming directly from the reseller market. So that's a huge amount of our revenue, and we're going to commit to that. And we continue to commit to that. And as a part of that, I've hired an experienced team of regional channel managers, which most of them have contact center prior experience, not just channel experience. And that is a differentiator. I'm trying to put channel people in the field who know contact center and know channel, not just know channel. So we're invested heavily and we'll continue to invest heavily. But I think those are 3 misconceptions I'd like to make sure we're clear on and moving forward. And we want them to know we want to work with them and be partners with them and with you and your company. We really appreciate the partnership.
We've seen the complete turnaround within NICE CX1 and the channel managers and national CMs like Trisha that you brought on board. Just absolutely amazing folks and are helping us win some really, really big deals. And so to both Ray and Eric, thank you so much for your partnership with AppSmart. Our advisors lean on providers just like you to win those deals. And we appreciate all the support that you've given to them. And to all of our AppSmart family, we'll see you next time on the next Solution Sales video.